Hello, hello, hello. Welcome to Behind the Experience, the car show with your host, Anthony McCrary, here live. Okay, so just talk about a little bit about my day, a little bit. I got in this morning at 9 o'clock, regular, sales meeting, and today they let us know that the rates have changed. Again, that for people who do not know, the rates changing actually have nothing to do with us as far as being at the dealership. We don't control that at all. We can't tell you exactly what rate that you're going to get. It's kind of a guessing game until we actually get your credit information. And from that point, that's when the real game of buying a car and trying to purchase anything changes. So, with that being said, tonight I kind of want to go into interest rates and what that means for you guys as it pertains to purchasing a vehicle. So when we so during my sales meeting, they talked about the rates being raised again. This happened last week, another 0.75. Now, this is the third time that they have actually done this in less than a month, and what does that mean for you, the consumer? Well, let me backtrack some. They raise the rates to kind of combat inflation. Now, whether you actually believe inflation is a real thing or not, I can absolutely tell you that the prices of bread in your local grocery store have gone up. The prices of milk has gone up. The prices of gas has absolutely gone up. So the way that the government combats this is by raising your interest rates on certain things to kind of help some of this. Well, that is a double-edged sword. Although it's there to combat certain aspects, it does lend itself to kind of hurt you in other aspects when it comes to you purchasing anything, especially as it pertains to getting a loan, whether that be a mortgage. I saw a commercial um, actually earlier this evening where I think it was Rocket Mortgage. They were saying that they are actually going to pay 1% of your interest for the first year. And then after that, you will then pay the normal rate. Then year three, you can potentially refinance. Well, that's fine. That's cool. That's dandy. Here is my kind of about that. Well, it sounds great, right? Here is the problem with that. The problem is there is no way to predict. Well, kinda is, but it's kind of a long, drawn out math problem that I'm just not going to give you. But there kind of is no way to truly predict what's going to be in 3 years as far as the interest rates are concerned. No, there's kind of no way to figure that out. So I look at it like, if in 3 years they're thinking that the economy is going to be better, which I think it will be better than where it is currently, absolutely. But if they're saying that the interest rates are going to be better in 3 years, and you are able to then refinance that in 3 years, well, my question then becomes what ends up happening to your home equity at that point in time? Because if you're buying a house now, and I know this is a car show, I'm just using this as an example. If you are buying a house now for way more than what it is actually worth, well, you're actually going to hurt yourself in 3 years. Well, how does this pertain to cars? Well, I'm glad you asked. How this pertains to cars is, remember when I said that it's a double-edged sword? Well, because of that, the rates being raised, what's happening now is we are seeing that the wonderful 0% interest that you were used to getting for, let's just say, 60 months or 72 months, that's becoming less and less prevalent. That's becoming now more of a dream. That is now becoming something that is just not even being done. And if you don't believe me, you can go to your local bank, wherever you do that at, or local financial institutions that you can go find a loan and ask them, hey, what's your 0% right now? They're either going to tell you we don't have one, or It's for some odd, strange time frame that nobody's going to take. Yeah, we've got 0% for 36 months. Okay, so if we put this into cars, let's quantify this. If we put this into cars, right? Let's just say you're going to buy a $50,000 vehicle, 36 months. Well, guess what? Your car note is still, $800, $900. So did you really win? No, especially if you were trying to be at $500. So no, you didn't win. You just got 0%, but now you've tied yourself down to 36 months. So in essence, you're saying you're going to pay this off in 36 months. Now, some people can do that. Most cannot. So what is happening in the long term for these extended loans, or those loans that are, let's just say your average car loan is anywhere between 60 and 72 months? Well, you're seeing the hike in those interest rates. You used to be able to do 72 months, on the very low end at 2.3, maybe even 1.9, some places even 0.9, right? Not so much now. No, that is not the case anymore. That is not what's going on anymore. What's going on now is, because of the rates being raised, not only in just this past week, but because they've been raised, 3 times in an extremely short period of time, what you are actually finding, listen to this, is that if you are a 700 Beacon score, or 780, or, whatever the case, 800 Beacon score, doesn't matter. What you are now going to find is what you're going to find in the housing market. You're going to end up paying, 5, 6, 7, some places even 8% for doing what you've been normally doing, purchasing a vehicle anywhere between 60 to 72 months. That's what you're going to find, because that's what's available because of the rates being raised. Now, being in my position as quote unquote the salesperson, how am I supposed to explain this to someone who has outstanding credit? They don't have any major outstanding debt or anything like that, and they are expecting to get this 2.9, this, this 1.9, this 0.9, or this 0% for 72 that they've grown accustomed to over these past, 5, 10 years. Well, I can tell you, it's very difficult to do that. It's very difficult to explain to somebody, yes, I know you have an 800 credit score, but best thing I have for you is the 6% rate, because that's the best rate available. Or the best rate I have for you is a 4% rate, especially if you're talking to someone who's used to getting 0 or 0.9 or 1.9. The best thing I've got for you is 4%. Because those type of folks they don't even have 4% on their house, let alone do 4% on their car. Makes you kind of wonder and think where we truly are going, with this, with this whole thing. It makes you sit back and really think, well, is this even a great time to purchase anything with credit? Well, the true answer to that is yes and no. Because tonight I'm going to at least give you some kind of tips to kind of get you around that some. So some of this you have to think this is going to be here to stay, at least for a little while. So you're either going to try to wait it out, which I try to tell folks you can do that, but if you're not in a financial position to do that, don't wait it out. One way to not wait it out is by asking questions. I keep saying this. These financial institutions, these insurance companies, all these other places, they're not going to give you answers to questions that you're not asking. That's not their job. So what you're going to have to begin to do if you're out house shopping, if you're out car shopping especially, is begin to ask, because I know for where I work, there are certain institutions that can combat this sum. No, I can't give you the 1.9 that you've grown accustomed to, but what I can do in return is offer you potentially no payments for a while. Yes, now is interest still accruing on that daily? Sure. But at least when it comes time for this payment being due, at that time, if you are a good child and have saved up, you can then throw a huge chunk change at the payment to knock off this interest. because most, if not all, of your auto loans are simple interest loans, meaning that you are only going to pay interest. Again, you are only going to pay interest on the amount of time that you have the loan. I'm going to repeat that. You are only going to pay interest on the amount of time that you have the loan. That is what a simple interest loan is. So if you only have it for 4 years, but you signed up for 72 months, but you only went 48 months, that's 4 years, you're only going to pay 48 months worth of interest, not the 72 months. So you can try that route. Try paying it off faster. Try throwing extra money at your payment, whether that be an extra $25, whether it be an extra $50, whether it be an extra $100. It just depends on your budget. If you're able to do that, do that. If you were able to go longer term, like I said, the average car loan is only between 60 and 72 months. Try to see if there are loans still available that have, around the same rate for 75 months. You'll be surprised what that extra 3 months does. You'll be surprised what 84 months could do. Yes, 84 months means you are paying longer term. Now we're talking 7 years, but now that may be more budget friendly. And remember, again, it's a simple interest loan. Throwing in extra payment at it, it's not going to hurt you. It's going to do nothing but help you. That's some of the ways that you can get around this. Now, ultimately, how can you combat it? There's really only one way. Either choose not to purchase or throw as much money as you can possibly at it. Or at this point, what I'm telling a lot of my customers is what you're truly going to have to do is really start truly making some pimp decisions. Meaning that, does it have to be the platinum? Are there some features now that you can live without? Are there some features that have to be in your vehicle? Because if interest rate is controlled solely by your credit score, what you get and what the bank themselves are putting, saying that you are allotted at that point in time, you might have to now truly start thinking about, do I really need a moonroof? Do I really have to have the power lift gate? Or find those, what I like to call those sweet spots packages. What I mean by that would be, good example would be Nissan. So Nissan offers, of course, S, SV, SL, and Platinum on a lot of their inventory, on a lot of their products, right? There's two sweet spots that I suggest you may now start to look at. Would be if you go SV, which is their mid-range. If you go SV, an SV with a premium package may be where you need to land now, as opposed to going to a Platinum, which is absolutely everything that you can throw at a Nissan, meaning it's absolutely fully loaded. Now you may have to step back and go with an SV with a premium package, or just go to the SL, which is a step below the Platinum. That now we're not talking about so large of numbers, because the SV with the premium package, for the most part, is still going to give you a lot of those premium features that you have grown accustomed to. The leather. You may still get a moonroof. You may still get navigation. You may still get the remote start, the heated seats and kind of stuff like that. You may still get that power lift gate. But now it's more budget friendly, and now we're not looking at you having to borrow $50,000. Now we may only be talking about 38 to 40. Well, 10,000 or 12,000 makes a huge difference when it comes down to payment, and when it comes down to ultimately how much interest you may ultimately have to pay overall. Because again, I can't predict what the next 2 years or 3 years are going to be. And if you don't believe me, try to refinance something right now. That's going to be very difficult. I'm just going to put it out there. It's difficult. A lot of banks aren't doing it. A lot of banks are not refinancing right now because it's not worth it to them. You are in the best position probably right now than you would be if you would try to refinance. A lot of dealerships aren't allowing you to refinance it. A lot of dealerships are pulling back on leases right now for the same exact reason. Because yes, they may be advertising, oh, you can get this lease for $4.99 a month. But in the fine print there, it tells you if you put $6,800 down. Do a lot of us have $600-800 down to get us to the $499? No, of course not. So they're not going to do it. So now you may be stuck in a lease, which again, 36, 48 months. Now you're at, $598 and you're trying to figure out why. What we have to do and what you as the consumer must do is now truly begin to do real research now. There are institutions, like I said, although they may not be able to offer you that low interest rate that you have grown accustomed to, they are offering other things to offset it. So those are questions that you may need to ask. Can I, push back this payment for a little bit? Is there an option where we can refinance after a year? You need to ask those questions up front. Is there a penalty for paying this off early? Is there a penalty for paying extra? Is there a penalty for making extra payments? Because I'm here to tell you, this is not going anywhere. And I promise you, this is not going to be the last time the rates are raised. By no means. This isn't going anywhere for a while. We're going to be stuck in this for a while. And it's coming now to me at the worst time possible for us in the automotive industry. And I say this because now we're starting to see new inventory levels begin to creep back. And when I say creep, I really do mean creep. It's slow. Creep back to normal levels. So now we're getting ready to have this inventory, but now because of the rates, people are going to be afraid to buy. Well, I'm here to help you buy what you want, or at least get as much of it as all out possible and still be as budget friendly as possible. As it pertains to, let's just say, your overall cost of ownership on a vehicle, that is something to absolutely think about as well. What do you mean by that? Well, cost of ownership. Well, not only does it cost for you to actually, because you're paying for the vehicle, so that's your monthly payment, but you also might need to look at other options as well. Do I necessarily, especially if we're talking about budget, do I necessarily need to get the Platinum if I know the Platinum is going to take premium gas? Last time I checked, gas prices are creeping back up too. Last week's podcast, I talked about, EVs versus hybrids. This may be the opportunity for you to look at hybrids. Again, like I said, depending upon the state that you live in, you may be looking at a tax credit that you could get back. Use that, especially if it's in combination with no payments for a little bit. As a matter of fact, there are some automakers right now that says if you do get a hybrid or an EV, they're willing to give you the low interest rate. That's one way that they're pushing people to go into these hybrids and EVs, especially by offering the low interest rates on those vehicles. And don't forget, that tax credit is still there. So this may be a time for you to begin to look and think about EVs and hybrids. I'd say hybrids more so than EVs because, again, I'm not an EV basher, I'm just an EV realist. I don't think the infrastructure is there quite yet for the EV. Now, if you live in a city where the infrastructure is there, by all means, just do your research, do plenty of it. At the end of the day, what it's going to come down to is now how much money can you throw at this problem? Meaning, money down now has become more important than it ever has. Walking into a dealership now with zero down is not going to help you at all. If anything, you've just hurt yourself throughout the entirety of this loan, because now you've put yourself in a position to be upside down, underwater, whatever the term is that you want to use, behind the eight ball, whatever term you want to use, you just now put yourself in that position that much worse. So now money down is become more important, or paid off trade is now that's gold now. The only way that I see us coming through, and the only way I see you coming through this time of inflation before they decide, hey, I think that our economy is in a better place. Let's try to now get these rates back down before that time comes. Because again, it's not happening next week. It's not happening next month. It's not happening at the top of January. The deals that you were used to seeing around this time where, everyone's giving cars away, I go and tell you that's not happening. It didn't happen last year. It's not happening this year either. Especially with the state of affairs that we are in. We are in a time crunch. They are literally strapping the belt for the long haul. Because honestly, I don't think they fully know when this is going to turn fully. So you have to combat this by taking a look at your own budget and understanding that you're going to have to put a little more money into it than you originally thought. I've always said money down does nothing but help you. In this case, money down is going to be your ticket between being underwater by a lot or underwater by a little bit. Especially with the addendums and everything else and the market adjustments that we are seeing on vehicles currently. Vehicles right now, for the most part, are selling on an average of $2,500 to $3,500 over MSRP. That's on average. Now, that's a lot worse in some other places, depending on what the inventory is looking like, depending on the town that you live in, depending on how many other dealerships, as far as competition is concerned, is there. Because there are some places selling $10,000, $15,000 over MSRP. And some people are going to have to end up paying that. So again, this is where I keep saying, you take your market adjustment and your money down. You take your market adjustment and your addendums and you add to it inflation. So you're already overpaying for the vehicle because there aren't that many vehicles available of the type that you want. And on top of that, I'm going to have to pay more in interest for it over the long haul. Whoa, that's really kind of messed up. It is. How can then, so then, Anthony, how can we get out of this mess? Simple. Either wait it out, which if you wait it out, I'm telling a lot of my customers that's the wrong thing you actually want to do at this point in time, because your market adjustments are going to continue until the inventory problem has fixed itself. It has not. So this is going to continue to be an issue. So waiting it out means, okay, fine, the rates are back down, but now I'm going to pay an additional, $5,000 more for a vehicle when I could have bought it, let's just say a year ago, for $5,000 less. Yes, my rate would have been higher, but now that the rates are back to where they're supposed to be, or whatever they're going to consider normal at that point in time, now I can refinance it down to a lower rate. But because I chose to wait, now I'm still stuck in this, this treadmill that won't end. This is the time that you need to be doing some real research about the vehicle that you want. Find a financial institution that's going to fit you and your lifestyle, that's going to fit you and your budget. Begin to ask yourself questions that are truly prevalent to you, meaning that, do I really need to have a platinum? Do I really need to have all the bells and whistles? If I know this vehicle is only going to be for weekend driving, is it really worth that extra interest? Is this something that I'm driving daily? Is this something that I'm using for Uber? Is this something that I'm using for Uber Eats? Is this something that I'm using for DoorDash? Because at the end of the day, you don't want to be stuck in this vehicle. At some point, you're going to want to get rid of it. Well, if you don't do the things now to set yourself up for that, you won't get rid of it. You're going to be stuck in it. You're going to end up having to go the full term of the loan. And at that point, you've almost paid for it twice. Even at 6 and 7 and 8%, don't get me wrong, those are still pretty good interest rates. But for someone who's an 800 credit score, you might want to tell them it's 16%. And that's on those type of customers. Now think about those folks which half of America, or actually more than half of America, have credit scores less than 650. That's the real conundrum, because if your 800s and 750s are getting 4 and 5%, think about if you are less than 650, what you are getting. Now we're talking about 11, 12, 13, 14%, when you should have been getting 7, 8, 9%. Now you're getting 11, 12, 13, 14%. Now you're really behind the 8 ball from jump. Again, money down is going to help you substantially. How does money down combat this type of problem? How does combat inflation when it comes to your interest rate when buying a car? It combats this problem by potentially bumping you to the next tier. So what do I mean? So when you go and purchase a vehicle, just like kind of a house, there are various tiers that you are in, right? And that's all based upon your credit score. Your credit score puts you at, let's just say, and there most banks have tier 1 all the way to tier 9. Tier 9 will be, as we say in the business, a left-hand turn down. If you're a tier 9, they're going to turn you down. But let's just say you're at a tier 5, right? And for argument's sake, let's just say tier 5 is like your 13 to 14%. Well, that money down can bump you to a tier 4, maybe even a tier 3, depending on how much money you got. If you get bumped to a tier 4, now we're not talking about 13 and 14%. Now we're talking about 11 to 12. Now, that 1% overall, as far in the grand scheme of things, may not seem like a big deal. But when it comes to your payment, that 1% may be the difference between you paying $650 and $599. That's a big deal. That 1%, that 2% may be the difference between you paying $650 and $575. Now think about if you added a paid off trade to that, as we call a sled, something that still has 4 tires, it still drives, it's paid off. You don't have a title loan on it or anything like that, right? But it's paid off. Now we're talking about potentially bumping you now to tier 3. This is where you as the consumer are going to have to get extremely creative and help finding the best fit, because like I said, this isn't going anywhere. I actually predict it to get a little bit worse before it gets better. I don't think rates are going to go down until probably the summer, maybe a little bit before that, but it's not going to be substantial. And I don't think we're going to see it go back to pre-COVID levels either. I don't predict that in the housing market either. So the things that you as a consumer, because I'm still one of them, are going to have to do is find those sweet spots within vehicle inventory. Pre-owns right now, I would probably tell you to, if you can, stay away from them, because the pre-owned market is so inflated at this moment till it's not even funny. There are 2018s that cost just as much as a 2022 or 2023 right now, with 20 to 30 to 40 to 50,000 miles on them. Why would you do that? The problem too with pre-owns at this moment. Now, if all you can afford is a pre-owned, hey, that is absolutely fine. I'm not knocking it. As my aunt would say, do what you can do until you can do better. Pre-owns right now, though, the rate is already higher on a pre-owned just because the simple fact it's a pre-owned. So the rate's already going to be higher than a new vehicle. This is the time for you to shop new, because at least if you're going to be playing with roughly the same money, because like I said, pre-owns are going to be roughly the same now as your new vehicles. If a pre-owned is going to be roughly the same as a new, why not just go for the new? Because for the most part, the new car is going to come with a better rate on that money, 1. 2, a much better warranty directly from the manufacturer. And three, if there are issues with it, most states, if not all states, have lemon laws. You can, through the lemon law, at least here in the state of Georgia, you can return it. Pre-owns, for the most part, at least here in the state of Georgia says if you buy pre-owned from us, guess what? It's yours. Because they trust you and the dealership to have done all the necessary paperwork and let you see all the necessary things that you needed to see for you to make that informed decision to purchase that pre-owned vehicle. So if you drive off the lot and you have a problem, well, you are stuck with said problem if it's a pre-owned. New, So don't set yourself up for those type of issues. This is the time to be looking at new. At least you're going to get a better rate on that money, or at least the best rate possible for that money. Why? Because banks view everything just like insurance companies do as risk, right? Insurance companies' jobs are to spread out the risk, right? That's why all insurance companies, for the most part, it's a conglomerate, so to speak. So let's just say you're with State Farm, right? And I'm with State Farm, and my neighbor's with State Farm, and my neighbor gets into an accident. That's why all of our rates don't go up, and only theirs goes up if they're at fault, because that risk overall is spread out through all of us who are with State Farm. Car industry, not so much. When it comes to the bank and a pre-owned, they view the pre-owned as more risk because it is no longer new, meaning that the newness is gone. There are miles that have been put on it. There's probably maintenance that's been done to it. The Carfax says it's had this done to it. The Carfax says it was in this accident or had this done to it or whatever the case may be. So that's why they quote unquote punish you for buying a pre-owned. So when you're buying a pre-owned, if you have to just buy one as close to new as all out possible. Because the older that pre-owned is, the higher that rate is going to be. Unless you are an 800 credit score. And even then, you're going to be shocked and surprised by the rate that you're going to receive on those now 2015s, 2014s. We have to be now, as consumers, very careful about and more in tune with what's going on in the market because of these rates being raised. Now, over the next year or so, as new car levels begin to truly get back to normal, we begin to see everything kind of flatten itself out, and now the pre-owned market is not as dominant, and these new cars are able to balance off these pre-owned cars and vehicles. What we're going to begin to see at some point, I'm not saying it's going to be next year even, it may be by the end of next year, we may be able to see the return of rebates and things of that nature. Because for the most part right now, there aren't any. And if they are, they're as low as I'll get out. I mean, we're talking $500 off of something. So think about it. You're already paying full sticker for the car, add an addendum to it or market adjustment, and the rates are going, yeah, I think buying new is going to be pretty much it right now. The problem is there just aren't enough new. But if you can buy new, buy new. And again, if you need to then make a true real life decision about a Platinum or an SV or an SL, you might need to do that just to keep it budget friendly. Just so over the long extended period of time that you have this, or let's just say you do buy a vehicle and you do go the full length of term, that you're going to be able to then be able to trade this in. You're going to be able to, quote unquote, get rid of it. Now, what this is ultimately disrupting are those folks who trade in their vehicles every 2 to 3 years. Because there is that body of America that buys a car. Let's just say they buy the car, because we do have now 2023s coming out, right? So they bought their car in 2021 or 2020. They know it's that time. It is that time for them. they are going to be in for a rude awakening because they probably bought it. Let's just say 2020, they were still probably getting 1.9. They were probably still getting 0%. They were probably still getting 2.3, 2.1. They're going to be in for a rude awakening when it's time to now trade this vehicle in, because this is what they've done over the past 10, 15 years, 20 years. That's not going to be there like that. And they're going to, and crazy thing is they're going to expect to get that same rate. Hey, I want my 0% for 60 months. And I've got to be the bearer of bad news. Hey, there isn't 0% being offered right now. Or if it is, it's only for 36 months or 24 months. So your payment that you currently have at, $300 a month, that's now turned into $700 a month. Are you okay with that? Hell no, I'm not okay with that. Why is it $700 a month? What? Y'all don't have 72 months? Ma'am, sir, it's not me. It's because of the rates being raised. Banks aren't offering that long-term zero because they know they don't have to. I can't make them. Ladies and gentlemen, buying a car right now is going to have to be, you're going to have to be just as serious and just as knowledgeable about buying a car right now and just as in tune with it as you would your house. You're going to have to know the ins and outs, every dollar, every red cent. You're going to have to start asking questions that you normally would not have had to ask at any other point in time. Because now it's not because they want to hide this information from you. It's because they know they don't have to give it to you now. You're going to have to ask for it. So I'm telling you now, ask. Ask, 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 ask. Even if they can't, at least you know you asked the question. And at least you know now you can have clarity. And then at the end of the day, if everything is still a no, you know you've done everything in your power to make sure that this was the best decision for you. At the end of the day, I still say research, money down is going to be the trick to all this. Making extra payments is going to be the trick to all this. For this car cycle, for those folks who trade in their cars every 3 to 4 years, every 2 to 3 years, because most people don't go their full term anyway. That's just a fact. For those folks who don't, you are really now going to have to begin to look at other options as far as the options that are in the features that are in your vehicle. You are now going to have to go a little bit. You may have to go a little less until this thing rights itself. You might have to go to a different brand. This would be a great time to go brand shopping because there are various brands that are trying to combat this. You might have to go dealership shopping. If you've been shopping at the same dealership for 20, 30 years, this might be a time to change. A lot of dealerships have dealer cash and everything else to try to combat this. Again, though, if you're not asking those questions, they're not going to give it to you. This is the time where you are going to, as a consumer, you're going to have to be more informed and more educated than you ever have before, because they're expecting you to buy the same. But if buying the same means that you're going to get a higher interest rate just because you chose not to ask a question, why would you do that? Don't. At this point, because of my generation, brand loyalty means absolutely nothing. If you drive a Lincoln, you've always driven a Lincoln, good for you. But you better damn sure make sure that what afforded you to be able to drive that Lincoln, which is your great credit score, is going to do and is going to work as hard for you now as it ever has. Because paying 7 and 8 and 9% on a Lincoln when you know you got your Lincoln at 3%, it's not going to work. Like I said, I don't see the rates going back down or at least this thing righting itself until the summer. I don't see it truly us being okay until the end of next year. And even then, you may see the return of rebates and things of that nature. That's why I say brand shop right now. There are some brands that are offering rebates. If you got some little extra money stashed to the side, you better start using it. Waiting this out is not going to allot you a lot. It's not. It's not going to afford you a lot. Waiting this out ultimately means that you can see the value of your vehicle decrease. Because I hate to tell you, because of the new cars begin to creep back to normal levels as far as inventory is concerned, we are now beginning to see the decrease in book value of pre-owns, meaning that your vehicle, your current vehicle that you're in, is no longer worth what it was 4 months ago. So that may be something to think about. So if you're going to wait it out, well, ultimately you're hurting yourself, because your biggest leveraging chip is what you're currently driving. And if what you are driving right now is a depreciating asset, at some point it's going to do exactly what it's supposed to do, which is depreciate. And some are falling a lot faster than others. So take full advantage of what you have now, but also know that I might have to shell out a little extra money this time around to get what it is that I want. Now, if you're okay with the higher rate, fine, and you know, hey, I can wait it out another 2-3 years and, refinance then. This is why that money is important, because it can bump you to a tier that's more favorable to you. And that's what you want. At the end of the day, this is about you. This isn't about everybody trying to make money. And, again, I say this all the time. People think that the bank is there to help them. No, the bank is a business. It is a private business that is in business to make money. 0% makes them no money. So that's why they're not giving it to you, or they're not giving it to you for an extended term. 1.9 makes them no money. 6% makes some money. 7% makes some money. 9%, 12%. Oh God. Let's not get up to, those folks who have less than perfect credit. Now we're talking about 18 to 20 to 28%. That's who it's going to hurt. Anyone who's less than a 650 right now. That's who it's really going to hurt, which is more than half of the country. What I'm talking about right now, for the most part, these 800, it's not going to hurt them. Want to know why? They've got the credit, they've got the money. Big deal, big whoop. Who it's going to hurt, to me, is going to be your average working Americans who go to work every single day. They pay their bills, but for some odd reason, they just don't have the score. And they are the ones that's hurting at the grocery store. They're the ones hurting at the pump. They're the ones hurting when it comes to trying to purchase a vehicle, and they purchase one and they're paying 15 and 17 and 18 and 20%. That's who it's going to hurt. And that's who it's hurting right now. And there's not much that can be done about their situation. The only thing that I can tell them, make extra payments if you can. Throw extra money on it. If your payment is $620, go ahead and round it up to $650. Anything to eat that little extra interest. Because remember, interest works both ways. Although it can hurt you, it can help you too. So when you're throwing extra money at it, right, that same thing is compounding too. Just like it compounds when you having to make your payment, and that 6%, well, it's going to compound every time that you throw a little extra at it. And what you may end up seeing, in, year 2, year 3, especially year 4, that's generally the magic number. Year 4, you're probably going to end up getting a letter in the mail that says your rate is dropped because you've bumped yourself to a better tier on your own by throwing extra payments at it, and you're paying it off quicker at that point in time. That rate drop may be anywhere between 1% or 2%. You'll be surprised. So do that if you can. buy new, because that's really going to yield you your best rate right now for your credit score. Buying new. I know new cars are out the wazoo right now. And if you can't buy new, buy as close to new as all out humanly possible. Because again, the closer to the current model year it is, the better the rate is. So if a new car right now is getting, like I said, 4%, 5%, like a 2023 or 2022 is getting that, a 2021 with less than 10,000, anywhere between 10,000 to 15,000 miles, it's not going to be far behind it. If they're getting 4 to 5%, well, that's going to get anywhere between 5 to 6%. Overall in payment, you may be only a difference of $75. That may be worth it to you. Buy new, buy new, buy new. It is time to get away from 2015, 2014, 2013s. You got to let those go, because right now they're going to hurt your pocket way more than they're going to help you. Yeah, they may be affordable, but they're going to come with a heavy price that you may not be able to pay for in the long run. And do you really want to pay for it in the long run? A 2013 right now, 2014, may be $13,000 to $14,000. Yeah, but then read your paperwork and you see where you're paying a 17 to 18% rate on it. If you're a good credit customer, you may be paying anywhere between 8 to 10% rate on it. You don't want to do that. You don't want to put yourself in that position to have to practically pay for a vehicle twice. You don't want to put yourself in a position where, man, it's because I needed it right now. Because when this does get better, and the reason I say you don't want to do that is because when this eventually does get better, you're going to be able to you're going to want to refinance it. And at that point, because of the book value of it has fallen so much, because of the year model that it actually is, 2013, they're not going to refinance it. It's beyond refinanceable at that point in time. And you're going to be so upside down until it's not even funny, unless you dropped a huge chunk change on it. If it's 13, 14 and you put down $6,000, well, you may be okay. Unless you're doing that, you're not going to be okay. Bite the bullet. Find the extra money between your Netflix subscription and your Hulu and HBO Max and everything else. Bite the bullet and pay the extra $75, $80, $100 to get it something new. I promise you it will be worth it in the end, because at that point in time, at least when rates do get better and it is time to get out of it, or now I'm in a better financial position, or now my credit is in a better place for me to refinance, you're going to be able to do so with a vehicle that's going to book out well enough for you to do so. Meaning that it's still going to be worth something, because people forget 2013 in a couple of months is going to be 10 years ago. See, we don't think about stuff like that. We just see that it's cheap, it's inexpensive, but we don't think about time that way. Banks do. Insurance companies do. That's why you pay more on something that's much older, especially when it comes to insurance and new drivers. Oh yeah. Try putting your kid in a 2013 that has high mileage on it. You really want to see your insurance rate go up? Do that. And watch your insurance rate take a whole backflip. Yeah. I'm telling you. So the advice that I give you guys this evening, if nothing else that you take from this, is that strap in. We're in for the long haul, at least another year of this. This may get better by the summer, and it should. But with that, understand that you are going to have to be more informed as a consumer, more so than ever. You're going to have to begin to start asking questions like, do you have anything to offset? Do you have anything to offset these interest rate hikes? Do you have deferred payments for a while? Begin to ask yourself questions such as, do we necessarily need to get the most fully loaded thing? Can we afford to do something else? How much money do we have in savings to actually throw down on a vehicle at this point in time? If my normal trading time has been every 2 to 3 years, do we go an extra year to kind of wait out the market some? If I have a $500 payment right now, am I already in the best position possible? Because your average car payment is no longer $500. Your average new car payment is about $675. Your average pre-owned payment is about $580. So those are kind of the questions that you have to begin to ask yourself.
Yeah, definitely some great questions that you've got folks asking and all of that, and some amazing information that you're giving them, and definitely all along those lines. One of the things I was curious about, and I've been wondering this ever since we here on the network ran an old TV show that was talking about the car industry back in, like, I think it was after World War II or World War One,
Mm-hmm.
and I was looking at some of those prices, and I was going like, wow, cars used to cost as much as like a very affordable refrigerator or something
Right.
like that, because they were definitely not that expensive in some of these early days. But of course, it was after, the war, and I think it might have been after the First War and something like that. But they were showing some of these early news clips, and those prices were just crazy. But they were showing the way that they were being impacted by what was happening around the world. So one of the things I was just
Absolutely.
curious about your thoughts is, in this 21st century, what is your thoughts about the future of the car industry? Because you're definitely very much involved there. You work with that dealership and everything, and I do know that with one of those recessions, the car industry really got hit, and there were some things that were shut down or slowed down in Detroit, the major automobile industry place, and all in that
Mm-hmm.
space. And it sounds like we're heading again to a recession. So I just wondering, Anthony, your thoughts as to the future of the overall car industry if we head to a recession or possibly into a depression as well.
So my thoughts on that is that we are. I think they're going to use this time to shift,
Mm,
and what I mean by that is we're already seeing it.
right.
They, I think in my previous podcast, I said that I think COVID, whether you guys think it's conspiracy theory or not, I think it actually happened during the whole COVID thing is when they begin to shift into EVs.
Right.
So I think the same thing is going to happen. So if they're driving us, quote unquote, driving us to a recession or depression, I think this is when they're going to take the time, and that's why there's such a rush on everybody get an EV, everybody get an EV, everybody get an EV. And I don't mean you as the consumer. I'm talking about us as automakers. Now everyone has at least one or two EVs in their lineup, and
Right.
we're going to begin to see that production heighten, to extreme levels if, let's just say, oh my God, there is a depression on the auto market.
Right.
Because what they're going to do is at that point, well, because we're already starting to see it, gas is slowly creeping back up that nobody's talking about. Gas
Right.
prices are going back up. We're still talking about new inventory shortages that's there, even though they're beginning to creep back to normal levels. But with that creeping back, the part of that I didn't talk about is a lot of that is EVs.
Right.
It's not just gas guzzlers or gasoline engines. It's EVs, or what it's going to be is kind of what they're doing now is, remember, they discontinued and cut away a lot of these bigger engines. So meaning all these V8s have now been cut. So they're replacing them with either turbocharged V6s or taking those out completely and replacing those with EVs, or they're putting in turbocharged four cylinders. So I think that's what this depression is going to do. It's going to distract us from what they're actually doing, which is forcing us into these EVs in these extremely more fuel efficient vehicles. They're going to make us greener one way or the other, and one way to do that is through being scared to death that, oh my God, the world's coming to an end again. You know.
Yeah, that's one way to do it. And like I said, we've always had different kind of things that folks have been using for transportation. Of course, there are always people
Mhm.
that sold those different vehicles, whatever that vehicle was. There was definitely the agriculture age and definitely the Western age when everybody had a horse, or the vast majority of the folks, I won't say everybody, but a lot of folks had a horse or a buggy or some way to get around during those early days before cars and trucks and automobiles. And then we moved into air traffic and all along that kind of way. I'm not sure that
Mhm.
there are any major airplane dealers because that's not something that you can have a mass consumption of. But I'm wondering if there's going to be a time in our future where we're going to have dealers. Hey, maybe it'll be you, Anthony. They'll be selling us our spacecrafts to get from point A to point B and all along those lines. So will it be a time where the car dealership has graduated kind of the way that we went from horse dealership to car dealership to maybe
Right.
something that is a space dealer or something like that, where you're actually trading space vehicles or things that get you from here to the moon or wherever you might else want to go.
Right. Look at it. I mean, they're already talking. You know, they're already taking trips into space, and I mean, leisure trips. I'm not talking
Right.
about. Oh yeah, let's just let's go to the moon to kind of explore some. No, no, no. Those days are kind of over with. I mean, we're talking about Elon Musk taking people into space just because they want to go.
Right.
You know, so I don't think that's too crazy far off. I mean, there's a reason that he's doing it, and there's a reason that NASA is allowing him to do it. I
Oh
mean,
yeah.
last time I checked, that was something only for the astronauts and the smartest of us were able to do. Now, you got a couple $1 million, yeah, you can hop on there, spin around the world for a couple of minutes, come back to Earth like nothing happened, and then still make your afternoon meeting. Like, yeah, that's a
And
thing.
my friend Nicole popped in and she had a comment. She said that hovercraft is the new car. So she said that the hovercraft is the new car. Maybe we'll all have hovercrafts and all in that space, but definitely wondering your thoughts around that. And if there's anything that you could see yourself that you are hoping to be, because you've been in the sales industry for a while, you've done cars and I think you did some other products. So what is something else that you might be interested in selling that you haven't had the pleasure of selling yet?
um, I would definitely say, me personally, I've always had an interest in the aerospace. I would not mind selling a plane. I think that'd be kind of cool to kind of do that. I also think too that she's right in many ways. Hovercraft is, at least for a little bit, is going to be kind of that stopgap. But my only issue with that is, again, what's going to end up happening, just like with everything else, it's going to be a fad, and it's going to be something that we don't fully have all the infrastructure for yet. It's just like EVs. Like, we don't have it yet. Even, let's just say everyone decided they're let's just say everyone they decided to, all right, let's scrap cars and we're going to go to spaceships. Well, that means you got to make spaceships affordable.
Yeah, that's you got to forget. Well, the other thing, and like I said, we're getting ready to wrap up. It's been another fascinating conversation. But the other thing that I've seen is a lot of virtual malls and virtual spaces have had car dealerships in their space. So you work
Mhm.
at a dealership, and we're going to actually play that commercial very shortly and everything. But do you ever think that there'll be a time where the dealership won't be a physical dealership, but it'll be a dealership in some sort of virtual space, whether that's a virtual mall or a some other kind of virtual alley?
I'm glad you asked that. So we are already kind of seeing that people buying stuff at home and everything else. In many ways, they are trying to. All these automakers are really trying to cut down on actual physical buildings and wanting to allow you to buy directly from the manufacturer. The problem is, I think Carvana has shown us that it can work if it's run right. But the problem with Carvana right now is they're saying that, uh-oh, they have not thought it through, because now I mean, in their third quarter, they lost over $500 million just out of thin air. And there aren't that many, Carvana, quote unquote, Carvana places in the country. There aren't. So a place that has probably 10 times less as many actual physical buildings losing $500 million in a quarter speaks to there's still a lot to figure out, before we get to that time. But I think that is something that is coming.
Yep, it can definitely be coming and all of that. So Nicole was actually saying CarMax in the metaverse, and she was laughing out loud at that concept and everything. But it'll be interesting to see your thoughts around that and in that space. But definitely glad to be able to pop in. I know you're talking a lot about interest rates, and I know a lot of
Mhm.
folks are very much concerned about the interest rate. So I was glad that you would bring up the conversation. A lot of folks are actually trading their cars more often than I would expect. 'Cause one of the things that
Right.
you said that surprised me was that a lot of folks are trading their cars in every 3 to 4 years. So that means that if you started driving, and like I've told you before, and everybody else on the network knows, I'm one of those mass transit people and do the
Mhm.
whole getting around in that space. But let's just say you bought your first car at 16 or 17 or 18. By the time that you are 80, you've had about 25 or 30 cars. That sounds like a lot of cars, but definitely sounds like a lot of people are heading in that direction. So I know that, like I said, like you mentioned, I remember when I was growing up, my grandmother and granddad had I think it was an old Oldsmobile. Like it was one of those older cars, and they had that car and that pickup for years and everything. It was
Mhm.
later on in their life that they picked up another one, but it didn't seem like there was as much push to get a trade in as fast as what you were just describing. So is your generation doing what you just described, getting the car every 3 or 4 years? Because that sounds like a lot of cars for that kind of frame.
It's not just my generation, because for the most part, a lot of us are now just becoming serious consumers. It's, believe it or not, it's the previous generation. It's our parents who are doing this now, where they're trading in every 2 to 3 to 4 years. And like I said, what they're going to run into is their cycle is going to be interrupted, because when they bought their vehicle, they got this great interest rate, and now they're thinking that they're going to get the same interest rate. They're not. And it's going to be a very rude awakening, because a lot of these folks who are able to do this, they know they're 700 plus, they're 800, whatever. They know that they can. And it's not that they're not going to be able to, it's just that they're going to be in for a very rude awakening that, uh-oh, oh my God, this point nine that I'm used to getting, or this 0% I'm used to getting, just doesn't exist. And if it does, it's going to be for an extremely short period of time. An example of this would be currently Nissan right now. Absolutely, you can get 2.6% right now on a Sentra. That's for 36 months. So 2.6% on a vehicle that's 30 grand, your payment's still going to be 600, $700 on a vehicle that you should only be paying maxed out. Maxed out. You should be paying for this vehicle 520.
Well, that's just
And that's
crazy
if
and
you go
everything.
72 or 84 months.
Hmm. Wow. Well, once again, you've done another fantastic show. I know that you had that female lady on not that long ago that was a one of your top sales ladies and all in that space. And
She's
I
our
know that you
finance
talked
manager.
about definitely bringing in some folks that are in the ability to trick out cars and doing some fixing of cars. So hopefully we're going to have some other guests. But when we don't have guests, you always bring amazing conversations from your vast car knowledge and all along those lines. So glad that we're able to do this show behind the experience, the car show on this particular day and all of that. But definitely you do an amazing job, Anthony, and I look forward to the show on next week as well. I'm getting ready to pop off and let you have any closing words that you want to share, and then we'll play that Valdosta commercial from your Nissan company. We might even play both of them to get us all out of here.
Awesome. No worries. Hey guys, thank you so much. This has been fun. If you want more, I definitely say subscribe to Behind the Experience on YouTube. That is my handle. I have a handle now. Also, the McCurry Experience on Facebook and Instagram. And also, you can catch me on the McCurryExperience.com. And if you are in the market for a vehicle, reach out to me on those platforms. I would love to answer any questions that you may have. Also, if you are currently in the market for a vehicle, even if you don't buy from me and you just want some professional eyes on your vehicle, shoot me over your proposal. I'll be happy to let you know, hey, this is good for you or this is not good for you. Again, you can catch me at themccraeexperience.com, the McCrae Experience on Facebook and Instagram, and Behind the Experience on YouTube. Catch you guys next week. I'm out.
Valdosta Nissan says, pick your payment, then pick your vehicle.
At Valdosta Nissan, we have so many vehicles to sell, we're letting you pick your payment.
Some as low as $199 a month, and some even have zero down. Your vehicle, your payment. It's that easy.
With over 300 company-wide, there's a vehicle for everyone, and you pick the payment. Come see why so many folks buy from Valdosta Nissan every day. All day, every day, Valdosta Nissan has your best deal.
This place that I call.
I want to explain it to her.
Valdosta Nissan has your new Nissan. Come drive yours away today.
Our flagship all-new 2022 Nissan Pathfinder comes with style and new advanced safety technology. Go on a new adventure with just 1.9% financing right now. 2022 Rogues are dropping in daily. Also available with just 1.9% financing right now.
Plus, get free oil changes for life and a 20-year, 200,000-mile warranty. That's real service after the sale.
The thrill of the drive, only at Valdosta Nissan.